feel bad about my Tribble. I'm getting my Tribble. 1 second.
Oh, you mean the audience?
Get the Tribble.
Go live. I'm getting it. My stolen Tribble. 1 second.
Get to enjoy the show so far, Lori.
Here's the trouble with Tribbles.
For those of you just joining us, we found out that Lori likes her vodka on her ice cream. I put it in Cocoa Pebbles. Georgia gives you gifts that she then takes back, and Serenity has an aversion to people being resurrected with chocolate.
All factual.
Okay, life is good now.
Let's see your Tribble. Life is good. You have
okay, wait. I gotta turn him on.
Your Tribble up. It has a switch. It's a complicated Tribble.
They're born switch.
Yeah, they're.
Like
I'm gonna find where the switch is.
a multi-million-dollar production side railed by a novelty.
Hey, don't call him a novelty.
Okay, he's not even novel.
Oh, see, that's why you lost the Tribble. You lost Tribble privileges.
There we go. There we go.
Oh, it's so cute. It is so much bigger than I expected.
Serenity's reaction.
Serenity is having a Klingon reaction, which given her roller derbying is probably a big reveal.
Just shocked. That's all.
Yeah, it's not scared of you.
Cute. He's
cute.
It's
so cute.
The secret to Serenity's roller derby dominance is he's Klingon.
I leave him on my desk, but then every once in a while he actually like freaks out. So I have to be careful.
Oh my gosh. That's
so
intense.
Cute. Leave him as happy.
Georgia, can you put a link to that in the show notes?
Yeah, sure. I'll find where you can buy Tribbles.
Right. Your Tribble supplier.
A Tribble supplier.
You guys all good to go?
Yeah.
All right. Hey everyone, I am Renee Ritchie, and 10 years and 600 episodes later, this is the iMore Show. Joining us for this spectacular, this hallowed, this honored, this amazing accomplishment, we have, I'm going to go from left to right because we have a packed hangout stack today. Georgia Dow, triumphant return. How are you, Georgia?
Hello, it's been ages. You tried to get rid of me, but I came back.
We sent you to the mirror universe. And
I know. I hacked my way with Tribbles.
Oh. Also joining us, a lady who started the show by telling us that you put the vodka on the ice cream. Lori Gill. How are you, Lori?
I'm good, thank you. I've already had my vodka ice cream this morning.
Also, the mellifluous laughter you just heard, who I think might be giving Georgia a run for her giggle dollars, is Micah Sargent. How are you, Micah?
Oh, snap. I don't know if I can ever surpass the Georgia giggle, but I'll certainly try. I'm having a great morning. Georgia and Renee, you're both back on the show today. This is exciting, good stuff. And holy moly, 600. That is redonkulous.
600. And speaking of which, the person who took the baton and ran with it faster and farther than I ever could have, Serenity Caldwell. How are you, Ren?
I'm doing well. My internet is not so much, but we'll see how well it goes. And happy to be here for 600 episodes. It's a little crazy.
It's amazing. Renee. I had an idea. I didn't want to tell anybody about this because I thought it'd be funner if I just sprung it on you. But 600 episodes ago, Dieter Bohn, who now works at The Verge, and Mike Overbo, who now works in IT at a popular U.S. university, Trivia, started the show. It was a spin-off from the Trio Central podcast, and Dieter would say, "Greetings, mobile accomplishers," and then Mike would say, "Ooh, we have iPhone news to discuss." And we all started there back when the show was called the Phone Different podcast. So I thought it'd be cool if we sort of just went around and quickly gave our iMore secret origin story about how we got here. What do you think?
Sounds like a plan.
Sure.
Let's do it.
You want to start, Georgia? How did you get to be at iMore and on this show?
I bought my way in, like everyone else. No. So
it's like tickets to Alinea.
She stole a Tribble and then she was on.
Yeah, exactly. I did. No, Renee, I think that you were probably one of the forefront people that said that we needed more women in tech, and you actually said we need more women to review technology. Women use technology, and there's not enough of a voice out there, and so. You said, would you like to review some stuff and maybe come on the podcast every now and then? And I was like, that sounds like fun, and started to deal with it. And I remember the first podcast I think that I was on was a video podcast. And I was so like shocked and scared the entire time. I think that I'd like blown out my lighting and all you could see were two floating eyebrows. There was nothing else that you could see of me but my eyebrows just kind of floating along on the screen. And I don't think that I answered any question that you asked me. And it began there. It began there, and then we just started doing crazy things with technology, like racing them down ice hills and stuff.
Yeah, I remember we had to have 4 separate Ustream embeds, one for each person, and then we tried to screen capture all of them together, and it never worked. But it's amazing. Like we've gone from, like, again, Mike and Dieter, which is a prototypical two white dudes chatting on about a tech topic, to a show that's more often than not hosted primarily, if not exclusively, by women, and nobody says a thing about it. I'm so happy.
It's because we have great fans.
Yeah, it's amazing. I want this for everyone everywhere. Lori Gill, how did you end up here?
I begged. And
no, not you. We begged.
No, I was a freelance writer. I was doing some work with Mac Rumors for a little while there, doing some of their how-to guides, and I just kind of was looking for a little more, to pick up a little more work, and kind of asked Renee if there was any room for me at iMore, and that's how it started. And then let's see, I think it was probably like 6 months in with me working for iMore that I was trying to weasel my way onto the iMore show. I would listen to the show and think, I have so much that I could say right now about what they're saying. I need to be on this show. And, I would just kind of like, oh, do you need somebody to come on to talk about something? And Renee was like, please, please, please come on. So I did like one, and then I didn't do anything for like a month or 2 months. And then I was like, I think I need to be on this show so I could talk about this. And then I'd do one, and then I didn't for a little bit. And then suddenly I was just doing them every single week. And then Renee was gone, and now I'm still doing it with Micah and Serenity. So I got what I wanted.
I love
it. No, that is so. And yeah, she emailed me, and I was a huge fan, longtime fan of Lori's work. And I said, yes, please. Yes,
oh, yeah. Please. So I have this hilarious story. I have this. When I was writing with Mac Rumors, I think that's when Renee discovered me, and he followed me on Twitter. I hadn't been following him on Twitter yet, but I got this little notification that Renee Ricci started following him on Twitter, and I about died. I had a fanboy moment in the funniest way. I have a friend who works at Twitter, and I sent him a message. I was like, okay, when is it too soon to follow someone back? Like, I don't want to be like a crazy nerd or anything. So I want to follow him back, but I don't want to be like, oh, I love you. Oh. And he's like, I don't know, just follow him back.
What's the rule? Now you have to tell everyone the rule. What's the rule, Lori? How long do you wait?
There's no rule. Just follow back. It doesn't matter. It's like, if you go on a date with a woman and you like her, don't wait 4 days to call her. Just call her.
Yeah, 4 days is, by the way, too long.
That's a long
Just
time.
saying. 4 days is too long. You send them a message like the day after 10 hours. Like, you can,
if you like
that's
them,
fair.
If you like them and they like you, it doesn't matter how soon it is. It's okay.
Welcome back to Dating Corner on the iMore Show.
Yeah, I still feel like when someone follows me and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh God, I have to stop saying stupid things on Twitter. And then I remember to do that for about an hour, and then I'm back to saying stupid things on Twitter. Micah Sargent, how did you get from there to here?
Oh, man. Okay, so I used to work at a company called Newsy, and while I was there, I reached out to Renee and said, hey, do you have any freelance openings? I have been looking around for some places to write longer form stuff about tech instead of just doing video. And Renee was like, yeah, we could really use some Snapchat coverage and talking about how Snapchat works and all that. What's hilarious is I do not very much care for the app. I don't use it very much, but I
did not know that.
I'm good about getting into an app and figuring out how it works and writing about how to use it. And also I am now madly in love with the hot dog from Snapchat and have a bunch of different anyway, but that's beside the point. So I wrote this gigantic guide, not realizing that Renee sort of just wanted something, relatively small, but I ended up writing this gigantic guide, and I gave it to my partner, who is he's on Snapchat nonstop, and will remind me, can you please log into Snapchat? I've sent you 15 Snapchats. Okay, fine, Shane. But he looked at it. He said it was good. I sent it to Renee, and it was good to go. And they had it up, for a while. And to this day, we're still sort of updating that original guide with new bits and pieces. And shortly after that, I reached out to Renee and was like, hey, I've been thinking about making a change, and I was wondering if you had any openings for me to come along. And Renee was immediately like, yeah, when can you start? And I mean, he talked to, I know, talked to Georgia for one, so I have Georgia to thank there. And of course, you know, talked around and everything like that. But it was really cool. Like, I felt so supported so quickly. And he wanted me to join on. I was like, now I got to tell my current job, like, hey, I'm going to be leaving before I can join the new one. But was only shortly after that I started coming on to the iMore show and hanging out with all of you. And then, yeah, pretty soon it was exclusively women and people of color on the iMore show. Rock. That's awesome. So I love all of you, and I'm so, like, it's so cool every time we do this show together, and I'm glad that we have this gang back together for the special episode.
Aw, and speaking of superheroes and their origin stories, Serenity Caldwell.
Oh man, my origin story is kind of similar to many people in that I was working at Macworld, and at some point Renee and I struck up a conversation about, like, hey, iMore's doing cool things. And I floated, I think early in 2014, I was like, hey, do you, like, what's going on with iMore? Do you guys need anybody? And Renee's like, yeah, let's talk more about it. And then we promptly didn't talk about it for 7 months. And then there were a couple things that happened at Macworld on the corporate side that made me a little bit, ooh. And so I was like, hey, Renee, let's talk a little bit more about that iMore thing. And Renee, to his credit, wasn't like, well, you blew me off 7 months ago. He was just kind of like, yeah, let's talk more about it. And we talked, and it felt like a good fit. And I guess it was, because like 4 years later, I'm here and hanging out. And I think I was pretty much on the iMore show from the beginning. Once I joined, it was like you, me, Allie, and Peter
Yes.
shooting the stuff, hanging out, talking about technology.
Why don't we have Allie and Peter on?
Well, Allie's current employer would not allow that, and we can't. Yeah, and I don't know if Peter would do it without her.
Sadly. But yeah, it's been a wild ride. And it was really interesting because before iMore, I had done the Macworld podcast for about 4 months with Chris Breen, where we were like just starting to build a rapport. And at that point, I had never done video podcasts before, so it was a really crazy jump into the land of Hangouts podcasting and being presentable while you're doing a podcast and all of that.
But I still haven't learned that.
Yeah. Okay, Brandon,
You haven't. It's true.
It's lovely.
So mine, my story is I was listening to the Trio Central podcast for a long time. I had a Trio, and I was on the Trio Central website, started by our founder, Marcus Adelson, but run by Dieter Bohn. And then I saw the iPhone keynote, and I was transfixed, and I immediately wanted one, but I couldn't get one in Canada. So I was living vicariously through the Phone Different website and the Phone Different podcast. And then Mike Overbo, like I said, he left to go to Education Technologies. And I noticed that Dieter, who was, to his credit, running Trio Central and Windows Mobile with WM Experts at the time, just wasn't updating Phone Different very often. So I started complaining, like, "Why? This news is old. How come you haven't got this up yet? There's a story that came out and it's not on. What is happening?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, Dieter is supposed to get." And then I got this email from Dieter going, "Hey, so you're complaining a lot. Why don't you try writing something?" And I'm like, okay. And I was working in enterprise software back then, but in my, that's a horribly, horribly boring job. And I would technology was so exciting. So I wrote a little bit, and then I kept writing, and he's like, "So why don't you just run the damn site?" I'm like, okay. I basically complained myself into a job. And he was still doing the podcast for a while, but he dropped that too. So I know actually they were still doing the podcast, but they were only doing it every 2 weeks, and they wouldn't do it more often. I'm like, you can't wait 2 weeks between the podcasts. So they brought me on one show, and I was profoundly horrible. But then we decided to do a show in between each of those, and I started hosting that with some of the other new hires at the time, including Chad Garrett, lovely, lovely, lovely gentleman. And we just had a bunch of fun, and then we merged the shows, and it went on from there. So the secret origin is complain a lot.
Yeah. So lesson learned: troll our website, and you'll get a job.
Most of the people who've been written for us over the years have come from our forums, including Liana Lofty and Ali Kazmuha. There's so many people. Brian Hart, Chad Garrett, all of them. A wonderful, wonderful community.
Having good opinions and being visible, I think, are what Renee's encouraging, not trolling.
Yeah, not trolling, participating.
We
And guess
have
what? If nobody could, if everyone was given a shot and they couldn't do it, they wouldn't be here. So
we have the
important
best
part is people
community
do
at
it.
iMore. I've freelanced for a couple of different websites, and I have been constantly offended at the kind of conversations that happen on the other websites. And then I came to iMore expecting to be berated or told I need to get fired or something like that. Very, very rarely do I get negative comments on things that I write. And when I do, it's deserved. Like I wrote something wrong or something like that. And I fully admit to my mistakes and correct them. And
You said you liked
the
cake
iMore
instead of pie and got attacked.
Yes. The iMore community, just, for anybody who's listening, I love you so much. You're so positive and so helpful. When new people come in and they don't know how to do something and they comment on an article before I even get a chance to respond, somebody else is there helping them out. The forums that we have are fantastic and vibrant and helpful. Nobody's ever mean or calling each other names because they don't know something or because they like something else. I mean, it happens a little bit, but it's not that often, and it's great.
Yeah, I want to back that up too, and just say, so coming from a job where most days I was on camera and there were videos being put out multiple days with my face on them, I received a lot of creepy messages and creepiness, like just the word creepy, real big. And whenever it wasn't creepy, then it was hateful or mean or what have you, more often than one would hope. And there has been very, very little of that in the iMore community. And yeah, it's nice. Like we have really good people who are, looking over the forums and are members of the community who are sort of policing, patrolling, keeping things in line. I think that everybody does a really good job, and the people that are involved across the whole thing, or even those of you who just listen to the show and occasionally, send in your thoughts and leave comments. Super thankful for all of you for being truly great, and it's really nice. It like puts a smile on your face when you've actually been able to help someone. So thank you for that.
So, what are we helping people with this week? Do we want to talk about? I don't know, Serenity. Did anything happen? Was there news?
There's nothing. There's nothing.
Little thing. It's about education. I think
So-
we were educating people.
So you went to some fancy event. How was it?
I really liked it. I thought it was really cool. So Apple this past week held an event at Lane Tech Preparatory High School in Chicago, which brought back a lot of fond memories of my high school, which was also a charter magnet school, but on the arts side. And we had a very unusual Apple event, whereas usually it's like a 2-hour keynote, and we get hear about like this and numbers and gadgets, and this is why this is the best, and this is why this is the best. And in this keynote was only an hour long. And we spent the first 25 minutes of it not even talking about gadgets, but talking about people's stories, and specifically about teachers and students in education and how the iPad is and third-party apps is allowing them to do really, really cool things in their classrooms. And I know this rubbed quite a few people the wrong way, because they were just kind of like, what is this? Like, what is this event? Why am I here? Like, yes, there's a new iPad and that gets announced, but that got announced 35 minutes in, and what's going on? And why did Apple even throw an event? Why wasn't this just a press release? And I get where people are coming from on that side. I understand that it's a little it can be a little different than the traditional Apple model, but I loved it, because one of the things that really, like, the reason why I cover Apple as a company, the reason why I've been passionate about Apple my entire life, is because it's not just about the products, and it's never just been about the products to that company. Like, yes, market share and cap and profits, all of that is important, obviously. Like, they would not be the top selling company in the world if it wasn't. But you really do get a sense that Apple cares about the stories behind their products, not just shipping a lot of them. And this was an event to really showcase that, and basically say, you know, despite the fact that we're a multi-billion-dollar company, this is still our like what we care about, and this is still our roots. And our roots are in celebrating what people are making and doing with our technology. So we got, you know, 35 minutes of teachers talking about how they were using the iPad in the classroom and how they were using it to work with special needs kids and how they were using it to, you know, do interactive history projects and writing to veterans and all these really cool things that took place, by the way, in a school auditorium, which was pretty neat, with I think something like 200 of the 4,000 Lane Tech students were in attendance. They got to attend with a permission slip from their parents, which I thought was super cute. And then also what I thought was amazing and such a cool opportunity is Apple actually invited student journalists as well from Lane Tech and I think surrounding Chicago high schools. And I saw this kid, I really wanted to talk to her, and I wish I had, who was probably 16 or 17 and carrying around a monopod with a portable camera set up and like Bose headphones. And I'm like, oh my God, this was me when I was 17. And I love that you're here, and I love that you had the opportunity to do this. That's amazing. And it makes my heart sing to see stuff like that. So like,
I think that was something that struck me when you were talking about, when you were tweeting about the event, was the student journalists, the way Apple invited students to participate in this you know, grown-ups environment and let them be just like the grown-ups. And like, what a wonderful experience. How great to be able to do something like that when you're still in high school and you're still learning. And here you are hanging out with people who've been doing it for 20 years and you're on the same, you know, sitting next to them, and like, how wonderful.
It really struck me. And, you know, it's easy to get jaded about technology. It's easy to go into a thing and be like, okay, well, what is the spec bump really? Like,
Where's my red iPhone?
Yeah, no, it's like, why do I care? Where's my red iPhone? Why don't I have a Mac Mini yet? Where's the MacBook Air that everybody said was coming? And I get it. I do. But on the other hand, like, I would trade 100 of those events for one event like Apple did this week.
Seriously.
Because it's so much, for me as a journalist, as somebody who really does care about seeing what's happening behind the product and not just the specs of the product, for us to get all of these hands-on stories. And then also what we had immediately afterwards were these amazing classroom demonstrations where the entirety of the press corps and the students were split up into about, I don't even know, probably 10 or 12 different classrooms that had these demos going on of not only some of the new education-based features and clips and GarageBand, and basically going through the kind of demos that they were showing off on stage in the keynote, so that we all got hands-on time with the software. And you know, some of it was pretty rudimentary, like the clips demo of us doing filming a little clips thing with Fibonacci sequences. I'm like, yeah, I knew how to do all of this already, but I also appreciate that Apple's kind of walking us through some of their everyone can create curriculum.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like, yeah. And so I come back to this where I've been trying to crystallize my thoughts on this event. And I come back to, you know, Apple didn't have to do this. Apple could have just put out a press release. And instead they spent, you know, probably 2 months working with the school, you know, upgrading their lighting systems, upgrading their sound systems, repainting places just so that they could host an event for a day. And like, you know, we see that and then it's gone. But those kids, like the student journalists, the kids who walk the halls, who are going to take advantage of like the new lighting system and everything else, like they're going to remember what Apple actually did than that space. And it wasn't just host a 1 hour event where they only released an iPad. It was Apple really showing that, like, no, they can't release $100 iPad. They're not gonna try and compete with the Chromebook on like base bottom price with crappy features. They're just not. That's not what they're interested in. What they are interested in is giving good experiences to as many kids and schools as possible. And that's kind of what struck me, is like, yeah, Apple could be focusing a wider net and trying to hit everybody at like a low income price range, but like where they are making a difference, I think they're making a huge difference, and that's really important. Like, hopefully we can also get to eventually all of the schools. But
Georgia, you worked as a teacher, and what do you think about Apple's focus on code and creativity and video and music, which are things that have been torn out of most classrooms?
No, I think, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that that's wonderful. I think that it's really necessary and needed. I think that, it's really like that is the future. We need to know how to use things that are creative. We need to teach kids how to use technology. My only issue with Apple is that unfortunately, there's a huge, great digital divide. And because Apple is often out of, like more public schools price range, it's so sad, because I think that Apple's products are safer to be able to use. I think they have some wonderful applications. You can use an iPad, like children that are like 2 and 3. My little child, when he was like 2, he was busy able to use the iPad very, very efficiently and comfortably. And I didn't have to worry about what he was going on and what he was seeing, or if he's going to break something. But there's this huge limit in between prices where you're not going to be able to reach all schools to be able to deal with it at that price range. And so my thought is, it's so sad, because Apple has some of the cool to do. You showed some cool stuff with AR and with drones. Like, that's so absolutely amazing. But with the price point being in $300 range, there's really no way that many public schools are going to be able to afford to put these in the classrooms. And I was really hoping that Apple was going to offer subsidies for public schools, maybe working with the government, so that they could put them into classrooms that do not already have tech in them, to help out kids that are not going to have the same, like if you can't use a computer, if you don't have comfort with many different programs, if you can't do video support or editing, it's harder to get jobs. And so I'm happy with what Apple is doing. I think that that's really important, but I'm also it's bittersweet to me, because I know that this is still way outside of the range for the schools that need it the most, for the kids that need it the most, because they may not be able to have a computer at their own home. And so it's a real bittersweet thing for me.
I'm not exactly sure how it works across all the different states. I used to work for a company that like helped get funding for school districts in California to build buildings and things like that. So I have a slight bit of knowledge about how schools get funding. And if I'm not mistaken, getting money to buy iPads for kids in school is something that that a county or a city, they can vote to have money allocated to that from the general fund of their schools. Now, again, I'm not sure how every state works, but if it's like California, I think it's similar, which is that this is something that there's money in your state's general fund for education. And of course, price is definitely important, but I think if we in our different states voted to raise our taxes a little bit, so that there's a lot of money that's getting allocated to the general fund, which can then be budgeted out for iPads, it's a possibility that it could be spread across the different schools. And school districts, like they don't only allocate to the schools that have more affluent members in them, the attendance in them. So if you, I know that there's a disparity with income levels, and that it's clear that low income neighborhoods with low income schools don't get the same opportunities. But through our government systems, I think that there's a way that something like iPad in education could flourish across all schools, no matter what the income. It's not students, it's not the children and their parents buying the iPads, it's the school districts buying them, and they can be spread across all of the schools if we were able to do the system right. It's really complicated, and it has a lot to do with lobbying for your school district and things like that. But the potential is there, and I think if even without the iPad, just any kind of technology, I think it's a really smart idea to get our children focused on tech, because just like Georgia said, if you can't use a computer, if you can't code, you're not going to get as good of a job. Like even jobs that don't have to do with technology are leaning that direction now. And people need more knowledge about just general technology, way more than they did when I got out of high school. And so it is important that kids learn this kind of stuff early on, so that it's part of science to them. It's not special. It's not a foreign idea. They just know it and they're better at it than the rest of us. And they take that into their workplace. And the education, I think, is a really smart idea. And I do hope that we see a lot more of that across the board. And I think one way that we can do that is help our school districts by, voting yes when they want to raise taxes 1% or 1 cent, so that money can be allocated to the general fund for education, which can then be budgeted out for technology.
Renee, sorry, Micah. Renee, what was your takeaway from it? Because you were in the middle of it. You saw the excitement.
No, mine is very, very similar to Serenity's. I thought, she had a great line where she said it was like a mini WWDC. And I think that was really true. There was a lot of expectational debt going into this because it's the first event of the year. People were expecting the red iPhone, the new MacBook Air. They piled upon the back of that beast all their hopes and all their dreams. But Apple said, we're going to take you back to school. It's about education. It's about teachers and creativity and students in the classroom. And then they delivered exactly that. And I mean, it was so beautiful. The slides were so beautiful. The teachers they brought in who were using it in the classroom, the students that Serenity mentioned, it was all just so beautiful. And then going in, and the thing that surprised me is we went into this one room, which was the creative coding lab. And I looked over and there were developers that we knew. Matt Braun, for example, was there. We got to say hello to him. And the people who do the AR apps were there that they talked about. But then I look over in the corner and there's the Swift lab. And manning the Swift lab was Cheryl, who presented at WWDC a few years ago when she presented Swift Playgrounds, who's the vice president of software engineering. And then the head of developer tools marketing was there with her, and also the engineering manager of developer publications. These are like all-stars, and Apple sent them there to show students and journalists how to use Swift Play. They could have sent anybody to do that, but they rigged that place full with like all their the best creative pros and all those people there, and it was amazing. It was an amazing commitment to education. And yeah, I get why some people were disappointed that we didn't get more. Like the iPad is an iterative update. Pencil support, I think, is huge, but it's the same screen, it's the same Touch ID sensors, same things like that, same cameras. So I think if you are a pure hardcore, I just want to see the new gadget and video it and get it up on my YouTube channel and get my hands onto my website, then for you're not going to get the hits that you would get from an iPhone event. And I understand why. You spent your time and effort traveling, and even though Apple told you what you were going to get, you expected differently, and you're still super sad about it. So I get that, but I think it's wonderful, and I would love to see events of this kind, not just for education, but for every area. Like imagine a music event like this, or an accessibility event like
accessibility.
This. Yeah, I think it would be just so fun. So more of it was Apple coming out of their box, and I think more like this, please. Gone are the days where I want those keynote templates on stage now. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think there was a little hint too about what this event was going to be. Like, I think it sent a clear message when Apple, I don't think people necessarily picked it up at the beginning, but post-event, the fact that there was no live stream was, well, we'll wait for the mail person to ring the doorbell and the dogs to get upset about it. And we're back. So I think one of the big things there is the fact that it wasn't live streamed. And because it wasn't live streamed, hold on, sorry.
No, not the dogs, Micah, not the dogs.
Are you telling your dogs to shut up?
You see one dog go,
yeah, flying across. I just shushed them. They usually will calm down after that. But anyway, so the fact that it wasn't live streamed, I think that it very clearly sent the message, this is not a huge event that's meant necessarily for everybody to see and to be reporting on immediately. And we all pulled it off anyway, and reported on it as quickly as possible. And post-event, they put up the video. And I think that sort of gave it this more it was a more intimate thing, and meant to be for, the people that they invited to tell the story that they wanted to tell, and less about sort of another marketing opportunity to give this big push. And so that way people post-event could focus on the products, and people who are super interested in education who didn't get a chance to be there could then go online and check out all the new stuff. But I think that sort of was a message in communicating and lowering expectational debt. But one of the things that I wanted to touch on, I did a deep dive on Everyone Can Code following the event, and that comprehensive curriculum is pretty incredible. Apple has created a whole bunch of not only guides for students to work through and learn how to code, but also guides for teachers that are filled with teaching materials and loads of other stuff. And I'm going to go through this a little bit. There are several lessons that are focused on kids sort of in elementary school, or those of us who maybe don't know much about coding, like that's where you can start. And it walks you through the process using Swift playgrounds, using third-party apps even, that help you learn how to code. And you work through this process, and then it graduates you to the Mac and using Xcode, and there are projects and guides available there as well. Now, these teaching guides don't just have information, sort of in a PDF. It has editable keynotes. It has quizzes. It has lesson plans. It has activities. It has discussion topics. It is filled to the brim with a true full curriculum. And I think that's incredible. And the cool thing about it is, like, it's available to everybody. So if you wanted to, you could just walk yourself through this whole thing, for the next probably 2-3 years, I think would be what the whole lifetime of this thing is. And I love that that's available for free, that anyone can use it, can edit it, can make it, their own. And that's pretty cool. So if you are thinking about Swift coding, like, check out Everyone Can Code.
And that's one of the hardest things why we don't have coding in schools, is that there's often teachers feel if they're not naturally computer literate, it's really scary to run a project with kids that you may not know how to do. Apple does a great job, it's scary. It's scary. If you've never coded before, if you've only taught art, or you're just a math teacher, and then they've added coding into the schools, we know it's really important, and we know that you want to start off your kids really.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I had an art teacher who was a math teacher reassigned to art, and he literally graded us on the measurement of our borders on the paper.
Oh, that's so sad, Renee, but you're such a good artist. I can't believe that didn't destroy your love of art. I'm so happy.
No, I'm just agreeing with you. Yeah.
No, but that's what Apple does so well. One is it puts it in my kids use Swift playgrounds, and it's really interesting. It's fun. They made cute little characters, so the kids are interested, because that's the other part about coding, is it's like, oh God, is this going to be boring and dry? And Apple does a great job of making it fun and exciting, and then for the teachers to be able to give them everything that you would need, so that even if you don't have any coding background, you could learn how you could do this with your kids, and give them those first bits of understanding of how does coding work, how do computers work, and do it in a way that's pretty much consumable. Like, you can just take it, understand it, and send it back out. That's amazing. Apple does such a great job with that, so that it's pretty much plug and play, and it could be in every single school, so that we can have kids learning how to code really early instead of waiting much later, and then they'll be even more computer literate.
Yeah, you did all the Creative Pro stuff, I think, didn't you, Serenity? And the curriculum looked pretty well thought out to me.
Oh, 100%. The Everyone Can Create section that they've kind of augmented as a secondary option to Everyone Can Code is approaching it in the exact right way, which is to say that it's not just, oh, let's just encourage people to draw more in school. It's really, okay, let's use creative techniques to still teach STEM subjects, and not even STEM subjects, also art, liberal arts subjects. But
I'm only laughing because of our Fibonacci poetry we had to do.
I know the Fibonacci poetry is a great example, though. To give some background, one of the labs that we did was math class, where we were essentially learning the Fibonacci sequence. And the way that they helped teach the Fibonacci sequence was using the Clips app to make Fibonacci poetry, so that each syllable of the poem corresponded to the Fibonacci sequence. So you got 1, 1, 2, et cetera, et cetera. And it was thinking about this, right? Like when I'm looking at the way that they're structuring these things, I again jump back to my high school experience. And for people who didn't know, I went to an arts magnet high school. So it was essentially it was a school designed for artistic kids who were in theater, intending to pursue a career in theater, dance, visual arts, music, or film. And as such, all of the teachers really had to take that into consideration, because it's like you're teaching algebra, you're teaching trigonometry, etc., physics. Your traditional turn to page 4 is not going to work when you have a classroom entirely composed of people who are very art is their primary focus. So what those teachers did, and I'm forever grateful to them, is they really did incorporate artistic projects. So I think about my French class, where one of the things that I was able to do was actually build a children's book. So I was building a little picture book, and I hand drew all of the illustrations, but it was in French. So we had the chance to learn how to write a book for kids in French and hand illustrate it. And those kinds of projects, I feel are really crucial to really absorbing learning and really understanding the subject, not just reading it, memorizing it for a test and letting it go on by. So to see Apple really wholeheartedly embrace this, I look back to my high school experience and I'm like, yeah, of course, this is how it should be done. And I really hope that it goes across that. I'm pretty bullish on this. I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Can I tell you all about something else that's awesome?
Please, please.
Excellent. Okay, so I am really excited to tell you about a new sponsor here on the iMore show. It's Audible, and the reason I'm super excited is because I have been just gorging myself on audiobooks as of late, just constantly. I fall asleep to audiobooks lately. I've just been listening to so many audiobooks. So let me tell you about Audible. If you haven't heard of them, you probably don't listen to podcasts. So welcome to listening to podcasts. Audible helps you listen to more books by letting you switch seamlessly between devices, so you can pick up exactly where you left off on any device. This is a really cool feature. I can be listening on my iPhone in one room to an audiobook, and then I open up my iPad and it's like, hey, you just stopped here. You want to go ahead and sync it? And yeah, of course I do. Right where you left off. Super neat. Guess what? Not only can you listen on your phone, but you can listen in the car, on a tablet, in a house, under a mouse, with a blouse, on Amazon Echo, and even more devices. So Audible members get a credit every single month for any audiobook in the store, regardless of price, and any unused credits that you have rollover. This is a super nifty feature because typically audiobooks can cost a lot of money. There's a lot of production that goes into them. So there might be a book that's a day worth of content, and it may be $45 in the Audible store. But when you get your credit for that month, you could use that credit to get that book, or you could get one that's $12. Anywhere, pricing, it doesn't matter. As long as you have credits, you can use those. And this is my favorite feature because I just used it the other day. If you have a book that you decide you don't like because it's really stinking boring and you weren't expecting it, they let you exchange your book. So I started listening to this book. I realized I didn't like it. No questions asked. You can exchange that book. You can get a new credit, and you can find a new book that's a lot more fun to listen to. So your books are yours to keep. Once you get them, you can go back and re-listen to them anytime, even after you cancel your membership. I have several books in my Audible library, and it's really nice to know that I can go at any time, even if in the future I decided that I didn't want to be an Audible subscriber anymore for some reason, that those are still there. So here's what you're going to do, because you do want to go check out these audiobooks. You'll be able to listen everywhere and have this experience of listening to these books, and potentially even those of them with excellent performers are a lot of fun. You're going to go start a free 30-day trial and get a credit for free if you go to audible.com/iMore, or you can also text iMore to 500-500, and they will send you a link. So what do? We go to audible.com/iMore, or text iMore to 500-500 to get started. Go check out Audible and all of their awesome books.
Woohoo! Thank you, Audible.
Thanks, Audible.
I just downloaded Dragons of Autumn Twilight from Audible last week.
I've been
I use
listening to-
Audible for my kids. Like if they have to do like a school project of reading and I'm like, they're like, they can't do anymore. I'm like, well, why don't we get it on Audible and you can like follow along with the book. Sometimes you're just really tired, but you have to get through the book. And it's a great way to help through your learning because some people are better with reading. Some people are better with listening and you can go through the book that way and you can even play it like a little bit faster and go through the book a little sooner.
Talk and stole me. Nice.
Be reading audibly. I've
There's
been
a
listening to
series-
the
Oh,
Harry
go ahead.
Potter trilogy, the 7 trilogy. I don't know if you guys know who Jim Dale is, but he's amazing. And you should listen to any and every audiobook that he narrates because his voice is like Disneyland. It
Can I say one thing about that though? And you tell me. My only thing is guys doing girls' voices is often way too effeminate and like shrill. Like every single girl in the book will be like that, even if it's like, you know, the coolest, strongest woman. They suddenly have this, like, you know, so tell me, is that the way?
It can be. I know exactly what you're talking about. For some reason, I mean, you know, a man doing a woman's voice is always going to be a little bit like, you know, make you kind of go, huh? But Jim Dale does this. He's amazing. I mean, Hermione's voice, it's a little girl, a little 10-year-old girl, and he manages to make you feel like you can do this. Like it's amazing. He's amazing.
I thought I'd be
He's
upset
really
that we got
excellent.
him instead of Stephen Fry in North America, but I was not upset at all. He was fantastic.
But, you know, we'll have Audible back on to talk about more.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, like, I can't wait to tell you all about the Iron Druid Chronicles because there's a talking dog in this series of books, and it's the best thing ever, and it's so fun. So yeah, we clearly all are fans of audiobooks, fans of Audible. Go to audible.com/iMore. You're going to get 30-day free trial and get a free audiobook. So check it out. What else do we have to talk about?
Really? Did anything? Can I talk about Apple's new privacy stuff briefly?
Yeah, let's do it.
Please,
You
let's
should.
do it.
So Apple is doubling down on privacy, which is odd because the company has been stressing it perhaps more than almost anyone else in the industry that's not actually trying to sell you security software, you know, because they have a vested interest in it. But Apple they're doing several things. Apple's always had the apple.com/privacy website. But because there are new laws, and I'm just double checking the name of the law because I know I'm going to get it wrong if I say it off the top of my head, but there are new laws coming into force in the EU, and it's called, the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, and it kicks in on May 25th. And it has very strict rules about how companies handle the data of EU citizens. So Apple's doing several things. In iOS 11.3, and the versions of macOS and watchOS and tvOS that shipped alongside it, there's a new screen that you get. You can't screen capture it for some reason, I guess because it's too private, but it shows you like their new handshake icon, which is going to appear on any app the first time that app asks you if Apple can use your data. And then if you tap on it, it will give you an explanation of why Apple needs that data, what they're going to do with it, how long they're going to keep it on their servers, if and how they're going to, you know, encrypt it, sync it, delete it, all of that stuff. So you can get all the information you want. Also, beginning in May in the European Union, but going worldwide soon thereafter, Apple's going to be introducing new tools. You'll be able to get a copy of your data anytime, request a correction to your data if they have something wrong, deactivate your account, or delete your account. Now, most of that stuff, I believe 3 out of 4 of those things, I think everything but the request a correction already exists, but it's all in different places. So they're going to put it all together in one place that it's super easy for you to find. And a lot of people asked me after the Facebook thing, and we're like, delete your Facebook account, check out what Facebook has on you. Where can you go to get a copy of all the data that Apple keeps, you know, on their system about you? And there's nowhere because they don't keep it. You know, they sync your data if they can. You have iCloud backups, but literally everything that you see when you go log into iCloud.com is everything that Apple has about you. And then also, they're reaffirming their commitment to privacy by saying they're going to, you know, minimize data collection whenever possible. They're not going to keep anything about you that they don't absolutely need, and they won't keep it any longer than they absolutely need to keep it. And also, they're going to offer transparent controls so that you know exactly where the data is, what you can do with it, and how you can work on it. and they're going to keep as much of the processing on device as possible. They don't believe they need to suck all your data up to the cloud and keep it there to offer you services. And this has been a huge controversy because some people believe that Apple is behind, is going to always be behind if they don't treat your data the way Facebook and Google treats it. But Apple believes, and they have a whole bunch of new initiatives in the company, that they can provide a lot of services to you without also using your data to sell advertising products or marketing products, or showing you news feeds or timelines or other things on the side. They believe those are actually two completely separate businesses, and they can do one without having to be involved in the other. And also maintaining security and encryption. And a lot, if nothing else, you can trust Google 100%. You can trust Facebook 100%. I think you're crazy at this point, but you absolutely could trust them 100%. But having a second copy of your data on someone else's computer, and that's all the cloud is, someone else's computer, means that that copy of that data, you have double the risk of it getting out, of someone looking at it, of someone exploiting it. Like we just had MyFitnessPal had a data breach yesterday. So if it's like a secret, if you don't tell anybody, it stays a secret. If your data isn't kept on someone else's server, it's much less risk of it ever being handed over to anybody. So I thought this was all really good stuff, and it came out around the new OS releases.
Good. We need more of that. We really need more of that, and I'm happy that Apple's doing it, because then that pushes the limit to everyone else. And what are they doing with your data? That starts the conversation of, this is really safe. This is what we see. We have this choice, and that empowers the people to be able to decide, what do I want companies to have on me versus what don't I? And Apple's always been at the forefront of kind of pushing the limits of, what they can do. So good on Apple.
Oh, good. And we got all the software updates and stuff too.
Yeah, we certainly did get new software updates, and it's been interesting sort of seeing people and things like that, of people screenshotting and sharing the privacy messages and sort of coming across those things. But we've known about it for some time, that those new privacy what are those called? What's it called whenever something interstitial sort of lets you know where things are, and they've done that across products. Every time I update to the latest beta of tvOS, I'm always met with a new privacy interstitial letting me know where Apple is using my data and that kind of thing. But I'm glad it's out there, and I'm glad that information is available. And it was funny, I think it was just yesterday, Stephen Hackett had taken a screenshot and posted it to Twitter of his HomePod. If you go into the settings and whenever you first set up your HomePod, if you say, yes, I will send my analytics and usage data to Apple, that's fine, cool, whatever. If you do say yes, then it shows you all of the analytics data that gets sent off to Apple. And you can hop into your settings and see those different packages. And it's a lot of gobbledygook for most people, like trying to figure out what the heck is in there. But interesting nonetheless. And so he'd come across that like, whoa, I didn't know all of this data was here. Like, I can see exactly what is being sent to Apple and at what time. And it's mostly about like device crashes and connection speeds and things like that. But it's better than this sort of nebulous, I know that I can go and delete my data, which is like Google and Facebook sort of method, but I don't always get an idea of exactly what data I've sent. It's more like a big button that's like, yes, remove my data.
And that's intentional. That memo showed that they did, like the guy said, like when we use this language to try to keep people maintaining connections. Yeah,
and that's troublesome. Certainly
it's
troublesome.
It's like pretty much they're admitting complicity to using, and some people still are like, no, they didn't really mean it. They wrote it. It was an internal message. They said these things. Yeah.
And the responses to them, I don't want to get down too much on a rat hole, but if you haven't yet, The Verge has the internal memo and all the replies people gave to the internal memo.
I want to see this.
Oh yeah, that was an interesting read.
Interesting is a great word.
Yeah, when there's a rule in psychology about human dynamics, and that is that when someone shows you who they are, listen.
I like that.
I guess, yeah, I thought there'd be more to it, but yeah.
No, that's it. That's all.
Renee, are you listening?
People are showing you who they are. Companies are showing you. How do you know what a company cares about? Where do they spend your money? If they're spending if they're spending their money in trying to obfuscate that they're selling your data to other people and hide that, that's what they care about. If they're losing money and actually spending money to be able to help educate and help people, that's what they care about. So when the company shows you, it's all about where your pocketbook is. When someone tells me they care about something, I say, well, what do you do about that? And they're like, well, I don't care that much. I'm like, well, okay.
I don't even care about steak, obviously.
Or
Now I'm just
Chicago
jealous.
style pizza.
Yeah, no, not some. Anyway,
Oh, Lord, don't go down that.
I won't go
Don't do
down
that.
that.
You're going to get a lot of hate on
No.
that comment, Renee.
I gotta tell you about one more really awesome thing, and this is one of my favorites because every host on the show right now, open up a browser window and go to thrifter.com, and you're going to be looking for something.
Renee,
to
say
talk
it.
about.
Say it the way, because every time.
Yes, say it.
Thrifter.
That's the one.
That's it.
So if you don't know yet, Thrifter is a new way to save money on everything from gadgets to home goods. You're going to shop based on value and not hype. We've talked about this before. Basically, the idea is that it's not these silly deals that aren't real deals. These are real deals. These are deals that are going to actually save you money, not.
Oh, I like that
50 cents
desk
off.
lamp.
See?
That
So
desk lamp looks great. Oh, bloody hell. Micah.
You're going to go to thrifter.com. You're going to get thoughtfully selected tech deals from places like Amazon and Best Buy daily. It's all the stuff, none of the fluff. We're going to go down the line and ask everybody to tell us what they're seeing on Thrifter that they really want. Georgia, we're going to start with you because you sound very excited about something.
Oh, they have an LED desk lamp, and I need 2 desk lamps for the side because I want to keep my light on to be able to read. And it's as small as an iPhone. It's only $17 American. Oh, bloody well. And it can be recharged with a USB port. So you can carry it anywhere, bring it out to you, and it unfolds.
Oh, cool.
That looks really nice. It's classy looking. It's like stainless steel.
Lori, what do you got for us?
I just bought The Revenant. Just right now.
Of course you did.
So
it's only $5.
I was paid to see
so-
Leo eaten by a bear.
If you haven't seen The Revenant, it's brutal, but it's beautiful. And you can buy it right now for $5. $5. And it's also 4K HD. So for $5, that's like not even 2 cups of coffee. It's a great movie. It is brutal. If you're sensitive to violence, it's very brutal.
Don't watch this movie if you're sensitive to violence.
But it's a beautiful movie and it's $5. $5.
$5.
Just $5.
Excellent. Renee, what do you got for us?
So I paged down very quickly, and I'm glad I'm in line before starting to call because I found the Collect 'em All. Walmart has exclusive Funko Pop figures on sale from $3 today, and there's literally a Jedi X-Wing fighter army. There's Spider-Man. I think there's Spider-Gwen. There's just Funko Pop. They're so cool. You put them on your shelf. You put like phones around them. You take pictures of them. You put them out on Instagram, and all of a sudden you're like beyond famous. It's amazing.
I'm hoping that Serenity doesn't choose mine. Serenity, what do you got for us?
Oh my God. Maybe I'll choose yours. The Philips Hue White Ambient Smart Lights. No.
Those are so nice.
Yeah, they're so nice. I already have a bunch, but I like slowly replacing them every time I see a deal of my regular LEDs with the smart LEDs. So this is $5 off. I'm going to buy myself some more ambient smart lights.
Excellent. So this is for children 4 and up, of which I am one. It is called the Soggy Doggy board game.
Wait, I gotta see this.
Although the name is ridiculous, this is it's regular $14. It's on sale for $10. Basically, it's one of those sort of, it's like Pop Goes the Weasel, or I'm trying to think of other games, but you go around this little board game and you turn on the faucet. The dog is like in the bath, and you turn on the faucet on this dog, and then as the dog gets progressively more wet, eventually it has to shake itself dry. And so the point of the game is to sort of make it around the board game without being the one that ends up getting sprayed with the water. And I just think that's so adorable. So it's like this adorable fuzzy dog that sits in this bathtub, and there's a little board game around it, and you go around the tiles and it tells you like how much you have to crank the faucet. And so everybody's sort of going like this, sort of pulling themselves away, hoping that the dog doesn't shake itself dry. And I think that sounds like so much fun. Like I can imagine having a nice couple bottles of wine with some friends and playing this board game would be so great. So that's the Soggy Doggy board game, available for $5 off. So go to Thrifter. Again, it's a new way to save money on everything from gadgets to home goods. Thrifter.com. You're going to get thoughtfully selected tech deals every single day. All the stuff, none of the fluff. Thank you so much, Thrifter, for sponsoring the iMore Show.
Woohoo! Thank you, Thrifter.
Have we got anything else to talk about? I think we've hit quite a few topics today.
No.
I think people are getting bored with us.
No. 600, I can't believe it's 600.
Tell us how you really feel,
I know.
Lori.
600 episodes. What?
We did it.
So great. So great.
Incredible stuff. Well, I guess all that's left is for Renee to see us off while he's here.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, everybody. You really are the absolute best audience in the universe ever. And the universe is unlimited. It's infinite. So that just means that you're the absolute best. Georgia, if people are looking for you on the internet, if they're tired of missing out on your giggles here or your wisdom there, where can they go?
They can check me out on Twitter. It's at Georgia_Dow. Yeah, hope everyone's, I will reply. I haven't been on there for a while, but I'll try.
Too busy for Twitter. I think there's an acronym there somewhere. What about you, Lori Gill?
You can find me at Appaholic on Twitter. That's APPAHOLIK. And you can find me at Lori Gill at most other social things. And I hate to do this, but I just noticed that you can get the UE Boom 2 for $89 with a $50 gift card through Thrifter. So sorry, I had to put that in there. That's a big deal.
That's a really big deal. Literally and literally? Both literally? It's a big deal and a big deal.
And what about you? I'm not going to skip you, Micah. You just spoke, and I was about to go right to Serenity, but you didn't have a chance to give your wearables.
Yeah, if you want, no, I did my choice. But if you are looking for me online, you can find links to all the things I do at chihuahua.coffee. I do want to give a special shout out to a new show I just launched with Tiffany Arment. It's called Somehow I Manage, and it is a retrospective of The Office. The hilarious and wonderful sitcom that she and I both love to death. So we're watching every episode of The Office and talking about it on the show, and we just published episode 2.
Awesome.
Awesome.
And he says if the Quebec Tourism Board sponsors him, he will in fact talk about La Job, which is the Quebecer version of The Office, word for word translated from the British, because it makes sense to Quebecers.
It's a promise.
It's a promise. So get on it, Quebec. I need this in my life. Senator Caldwell, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Saturn, SETTERN, as well as on Relay FM with the podcast Query, where Stephen and I answer all your fun tech questions. And you can also find me on iMore.com, reading all about the iPad. All about
all the things. You can find me at Rene Ritchie on Twitter. You can find me at imore.com/vector or on applepodcast.com/vector or youtube.com/vector show, because someone was squatting on Vector and I just can't figure a way around that. But yeah, you can also find me on iMore all the time. Thank you all so much for joining us. 600 shows in the can. Woohoo! And
of course, thanks to Jim Metzendorf for editing this here podcast.
600 times today.
Today, it counts.
Bounce it. Thank you all so much.
Bye, everybody.